Hey everybody, it's Suzanne. Today I am going to be canning some beef. I have about 10 pounds of meat here. So you want to start, everything is all nice and clean. You've laid out everything and got all your stuff together, what you need. And I've started cubing the beef. This is 10 pounds of Black Angus, and it's not real fatty. You can tell by looking at it. It's a pretty nice piece of meat. But there's a little bit of trimming there to do, but not much. I have been canning meat for pretty close to 50 years. My ex-husband's grandmother, she was a sweet, sweet, dear lady. She taught me everything that I know about canning, preserving, and freezing foods. And we always had a garden and lots of veggies. And if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't know anything. But for about 50 years, I've canned and frozen so many different things that I thought, why not share them with you? So I did some deer meat last year, and that was really good too. My son just went hunting in Colorado, and although he didn't get anything, when he goes again, if he does get elk or moose or anything like that, I will can that. It's so delicious. Oh my goodness, if you're out and about and you're having a hectic day, you don't know what to fix, canned meat is the go-to thing. It's already done, it's already cooked, it's been processed, canned, preserved. So all you have to do is go get it, put it in your frying pan, put some onions and maybe some peppers and caramelize that up. Choose your favorite seasoning you might like, and make a little bit of a gravy. I never met a potato that I didn't like, so it goes good over mashed potato, anything, any potato, any noodle, any rice, anything you want to choose. If you want to make stroganoff, this is so tender because it's been canned, and it'll taste so good over noodles. If you want to make roast beef, you can get all your veggies together, cook them up real fast, and add your brown meat. Always brown your meat and then add it to whatever. But this is just a lifesaver as far as it'll you'll be able to put on a quick meal in 30 minutes or less. And it tastes so good too. And so this is grain-fed Black Angus. There's about 10 pounds here, and it's going to take me, I'm going to cube it up, it's going to take me, in the pint jars that I use, there'll be 8 pint jars. It'll take me about 75 minutes to process it in my pressure cooker canner, and that will be, I will let it get up to 15 pounds per square inch. So the gauge on the canner, you'll see it, I'll show it to you in a little bit here, but you don't need to go any higher than 15 on that gauge. Somewhere between 10 and 15 is great, and I stay at 15. So I never leave the area. That's my suggestion to you when you get the canner going. Never leave the area. Adjust your heat on your burner until you got that 15 pounds. I've heard so many of the different people say that pressure cookers are so dangerous. Well, yeah, if you don't do it right, but I've never, well, one time my mother-in-law and we were making applesauce, and I don't know what she was doing, but it got away from her, and we did have to clean applesauce off the ceiling. But I mean, nobody got hurt or anything like that. It's just that applesauce kind of went wherever. But anyway, I've never had that happen again, and I use the pressure cooker every year when vegetables are ready and it's time to do some canning. I never have a problem, knock on wood. But stay in the kitchen, watch that gauge go up, and kind of watch and see. Once you do it a couple times, you'll know where to set your burner temperature. Mine is always set at medium. I know that just because I've canned so many times, and I know right where to put the, I know what my burners do, and that's just because I've done this over and over and over, that I set it on medium, I stay there, it doesn't go above 15 on the pressure gauge, and all is well. And you can do the same thing, and once you've done it a couple times, make a note what what happens and what you have it set at. Now you see me taking off all those little pieces of grizzle. You want a little bit of fat, just like as in hamburger. You go by, it's 80-20, it's an 80% meat, 20% fat. You want a little bit of fat because there's where your flavor is. So, but the grizzle part is what I'm trimming off of there. And it's not very much. At the end, I'll show you my little bowl there that I put the grizzle in, and I didn't take off a whole lot. It was more or less the little stringy stuff that you see, but or the hard stuff on the edge. But you need a little bit of fat. So cubing up this 10 pounds here, it only took like a half an hour to do it. So it's not like you have to, like, don't think that you have to stand there for 2 hours or something. It goes pretty easy and pretty fast. And once you've done it a few times, you just move right along. All right, so elevation. Oh, everybody gets so nervous about elevation. It's really not that big of a deal. Let me see here. We are in North Carolina, and we're not on the coast. We're not over by the water, so we're kind of like a little bit in the mountains, but not real high up. So you can go to Google Maps, or you can go to Cooperative Extension, or you can find out what your elevation is. If you're closer to the water, like the coastal area all the way around, whether on your East Coast, West Coast, Miami, wherever you are, if you're down near sea level, your water is going to start boiling at 212 degrees Fahrenheit. So it's going to be, that's your boiling point. Now here, as you go up into the mountains more and you get the higher elevations, just think of in your mind Denver, Colorado, or the Rockies, or something where it's higher. It's not sea level, it's higher. Your water temperature will, boiling point will be a different degree. So it'll be like, let's see, where's my little chart here? I have a little chart for you, and actually I'm going to be getting into this a little bit more intense, but this will get you through. You'll see what I mean later on. If you're in, let's see, I might have to do that in the next video, but your boiling point of your water will not be 212 degrees Fahrenheit. it will be sooner than that. Like mine will start boiling at 206 degrees or something like that. 206 or 208. So when I'm timing how long do I want something to cook, because of the pressure cooker canner, you can't take the lid off and see that the water is boiling. So you have to you kind of go by degrees, and I know that my water boils at, if I have it set, we're 15 pounds pressure as opposed to 10 pounds pressure. If I have that set as that, the water will be boiling pretty good, and I will need 75 minutes for my pints and 90 minutes for my quart jars. So you will just know that, but you know what? I know there's a need for me to do an educational video on all this. So where it's not right at the top of my head, what would 4,000 feet or 6,000 feet or 8,000 feet, what would be the boiling point at those feet? I don't know off the top of my head. I've read it before, but I actually don't know what it is. If you have a pressure cooker canner, or if you have a regular canner, one that's not a pressure cooker, things will be different for you. So if you have just a regular canner, put your water in there, put your jars in there, bring it to a boil, and then just time it 70 to 75 minutes for your beef. Okay, if you have a pressure cooker canner, you can set it at, make sure that your PSI or your pressure per square inch doesn't go above 15, and I'm sorry, I said that wrong. If you have a regular canner, your pints are going to take about an hour and a half to 2 hours. Your quarts are going to take about 3 hours. Okay, that's for a regular canner. And now for the pressure cooker canner, that's 70 to 75 minutes for pints and about 90 minutes for quarts. That's because the pressure, it's cooking under pressure. Okay, now I'm ready for my canning salt, and I bought all my stuff at Walmart so I could show you. Walmart carries just about everything there. You need a teaspoon, and you're going to measure out 1 teaspoon for each of your pint jars, and 2 teaspoons for the quart jars. So, everything I got at Walmart to show you in this video. If you shop other places, things are available wherever you go. You'll get your canning salt and your rims and your lids and your jars, and that's all you need to do the meat, and that's what the fat is. The whole 100% of what I took off is right there. So it wasn't very much, like I had mentioned. So now I'm filling the jars. I'm not going to pack it like really hard. I'm just going to place them in there, and I might move them around a little bit because they're different sizes, but I'm going to place them in all the jars and fill up the jars. Okay, back to the time and what you have. If you have a regular canner and you put your jars in the canner, and then you're going to do about halfway up with water, you're going to put the top on, turn your burner on. You can open that top up and see when your water's boiling. You can start your timer or jot down time and count an hour and a half, 2 hours, and then for your quart, that would be more like 3 hours. They're just cooking in the jars. They're just processing, and they're getting up to temperature. And that's why it's important that it does get up to temperature, because you want it to kill any bacteria on your food, on your in this case, we're doing meat. So you want it to come up to temperature, you want it to cook and boil. So that's processing it by heat. Your heat will kill your bacteria, so you don't get botulism or anything like that, any kind of toxic thing, that any kind of bacteria. You don't want that. That's probably your number one thing. Cleanliness, making sure that there's no food around the rim of the jars. Make sure that's all clean. Make sure your lids and everything is all clean. Make sure you inspect your jars, that there's no cracks in the rims, or that there's no crack in the jar either. And make sure everything is perfect there, as far as, and your product too. In this case, the product is the meat, and it is perfect also. It's not spoiled. It's not, discolored in any way. It's good. If you're doing vegetables or fruits or anything, you're not going to can rotten vegetables or rotten fruits. Make sure that the product, whatever it is that you're canning or processing, preserving, make sure that it's not spoiled in any way. In the bacteria that forms, or the mold or fungus or whatever it is that's formed on fruits or vegetables or whatever, that's what's going to make the batch spoil. So you want to inspect everything and make sure you're always working with not spoiled foods, and in this case, not spoiled meat. This is fresh, and it's not been sitting around for weeks or anything like that. You can't process something that's already started to spoil. So, all right, I've got the pint jars are filled, and now I'm just filling the quarts, and that's that. So it didn't take very long. I will put some salt in there now, teaspoon for the pints, and again, I do like the wide rimmed jars. So those are the wide rim pint jars that you see there, and the quart jars, I have two of those, is also wide mouth jars. So and I prefer them. They're easy to clean. I always buy them every year if I do have to buy any, because I can get my hand in there and clean them really good. Alright, so here I'm putting 2 teaspoons in the quarts, and then 1 teaspoon in the pints. And that is salt, canning salt, and it is a preservative. And that's all I put in there. I have heard of other people and talking to other girls and guys that can, they will put other seasonings in there. I don't do that. All my seasoning is done at the time when I cook it. So I don't put bay leaves, or I don't put basil or parsley or any other seasoning in there. Just salt's it. When I open this up, when I go to prepare it, that's when I do all my seasoning. And so this is the way that I was taught to do it, and I've always done it this way, and I've never had a batch spoil. This is just the way I was taught to do it. I think the reasoning behind that is the more you add to it, the more chance you take of some kind of bacteria forming or something in there. So, and I noticed that too when you buy tuna fish, it's not got any seasonings in there. Or that chicken in the can that you buy, that it's like the breast meat, it's in the can. Or, there's not a lot of seasonings. There's salt in there, but in some of your canned foods that are on the market to buy, those little sausages or canned beef or any canned meat product, I don't recall ever it being seasoned or having a lot of different spices added to it. I think it's just plain salt is the way to go. That's the way I've always gone and done it. So I highly recommend just staying plain and just doing salt. Now, when we butcher on the farm, well, we have pigs, and we used to raise beef, but now we buy during fair time. The 4-H kids, they will have an auction, and that's how we buy Angus or whatever. We've always prepared like our own meats and stuff. The chicken, if you were to do chicken, like the chicken breast, you would never do a bone in. It would always be without the bone when you're canning anything like this. Never leaving like the bone in. It would be only the breast part, and that would be the part you can. Just omit the bone part. The nice thing about this is the convenience of just whipping a meal up in no time at all, and that's the best besides the thing. This is a stainless steel chopstick. My girlfriend is from South Korea, and she went home about 15 years ago to visit her family, and she brought these back for me. And they work really nice like this here to get the air out and move the pieces around. And the water, because I add just a little bit of water, not even like maybe about a quarter of a cup, just to mainly dissolve that salt that I put on the top. And by poking the chopstick down in there, it lets the water go all the way down to the bottom of the jar. So now these are the lids, and I don't touch the white part on the bottom part of the lid. I don't touch that with my fingers. I'll touch the rim on the outer edge. I will touch that to handle it, to put it down onto the top of the jar. But these have been sterilized. They've been put in hot water, and anything to cut down the bacteria. So when you wouldn't like take these right out of the box and put them on top. You would boil up some water, shut your heat off, and I'm showing you there that it's clean around the rim. And it will make a good seal by it being clean. It will make a good seal with that lid. Now, if there was food there on the rim, it might not seal properly. So you're trying to avoid that. So, so when you bring it to a boil, the water to a boil, then you put your lids in there, that will kill any germs or bacteria that's on the lids. I'm big on germs. Everything is clean, not contaminated in any way. The work area has been wiped down with distilled white vinegar. I wipe everything down with that. And so that my work area is clean. You want to do that. And now when I get the lids on these and I make sure that they're tight, I will put them into the canner with a little bit of water. But I had to take out a little bit of water because I put in too much. So you can do that. But you want to go like halfway up the jar with water. And if you're in a regular canner, you can go right below the lid there that you see. When you fill it with water in a regular canner, when you set your jars in, the water level should be right below that lid that you see. So now in a pressure cooker canner, you don't need that much water. So it's like halfway up the jar. And I'll be showing you that in just a second here. But if you have any questions, it's, like after you do this a few times, you'll see it's not that hard really. And this is really great for those people like back in the 60s. We were in a Cold War with Russia, the United States was, and there was a big thing on the nuclear war with Russia. So everybody was, not everybody, many people were building fallout shelters. Yes, we had a fallout shelter. And all your canned goods, everything that you canned, and powdered milk in boxes, and all that kind of stuff was down there. And we used to have drills and have to go pretend that there was a siren and go down to the fallout shelter. But today we have the doomsday concern where you would want where people build underground and whatever. But you would want to have a food supply, and why not have something that you've canned yourself? And you know what's in there. It's all good food. Can your vegetables, your fruits, anything that you see canned in the store can be canned at home. So if you want to, can pumpkin pie filling, whatever you can see in the store that comes in a can, you can can that too. And the reason why I like canning, it doesn't, once you get it processed and canned, you can put it on a shelf down in your fruit cellar or down in your cellar, and put it on a shelf, and it doesn't matter if the power goes out, it's not going to affect it at all. Where when you freeze things, like say you freeze tomatoes or freeze green beans or something like that, if you have a power storm and your electric goes out and it's out for 4 or 5 days, I don't know how many times in my life I can tell you, but I'm probably older than a lot of you people are, but processing and canning and all that for 50 years of my life, I can tell you so many times when the power has gone out in a storm, we've lost the entire freezer. Whatever was in that freezer is in the garbage. It's gone. The thing with canning like this, it doesn't cost anything to keep it. Once you put it on a shelf, it stays there. And doesn't matter if you don't have any power. Matter of fact, if you don't have any power and you have a Coleman stove or something to cook with propane, you can grab one of these jars of meat and you can still eat even with no power. So you can still fix yourself a sandwich, a beef sandwich, or whatever you want. So, and that's the great thing about canning and different meats and vegetables. They're not ever gonna get spoiled. So, and that has happened so many times in my life, where we've lost the entire freezer. But this is good. I like canning, and I've done it for years, and I hope you do too. There's my pressure cooker all set to go. And here it is at 15 pounds per square inch. And you see it's just cooking away. And that thing you see bopping around, that releases, that's your valve for releasing pressure. Okay, so now it's done. And I took the first batch out, and this is the second batch.
2 weeks later, in the little house in St. Joe, Bob
This
and Charlie
is
poured
the
kitchen with his back
2
turned and his
quarts
ladies
that I
out.
had
The
left.
story of Jesse James reached its
I
end.
did them.
But never
And
to be forgotten.
you'll see that is done. This has been a good little canner for me. I've had this canner probably going on about 10 years now, 9 years or so. But before that, I didn't have a pressure cooker canner. I had just the regular kind that you put water in and then you just heat it up. And getting yourself a pair of the jar handlers there, they're really handy. Now those are the labels. The Pioneer Woman, she sells them at Walmart. You can find them there. They're real cute. You put on there what your product is, like in this case beef, and then the month, B12, and then 2017. So you always label everything that you do, no matter what you do. You label, put a date on there so that you know how old it is when you did it. And they're kind of cute too, like if you want to give a jar little labels. Like I said, everything I found to show you was at Walmart. You don't really need that much. Your beef, your jars, your lids, salt, your canning salt, and that's it. Now I'm showing you that those have sealed already. I did them first, as you remember, and then took them all out and put the 2 quarts in there. And they've already sealed. They've popped. Now those 2 quarts that I just took out, they'll pop, and within a half an hour they'll be sealed. So as you can see, it's a pretty easy process. It didn't take me long, and I'll be glad to answer any of your questions. If I know, I'll be glad to help you out with that. The sky's the limit, actually. You can do fish, you can do pork, beef, moose, elk, deer, anything that you want to process. So